4 years ago, I reviewed the Focal Clear. Not only is this still my favorite Focal headphone at any price, but it's one of my personal favorite headphones of all time, making my top 5 easily. I am going to be reviewing this thing again. I'm going to see how it stacks up to the modern era, and it's all thanks to Headphones.com, the sponsor of today's video. Headphones.com is a premier online headphone retailer specializing in, you guessed it, headphones. You can find this headphone there at a discounted rate, and it has over 220 reviews at 4.8 stars. This is one of the best selling headphones on their site, and it deserves it. So like I said, I'm going to be reviewing this thing today, and I'm also going to be bringing in the most based reviewer in audio right now, which is Courtney. You guys asked for her to come back, so I'm happy to have her back. Now, the unboxing is still one of the best. It does come with 3 total cables and this very nice carrying case, of course. One thing I would personally recommend though is picking up a spare set of pads. These pads, unfortunately, while they're amazing pads because of their coloration and the material, they do pick up like oils from your hair pretty easily, and they will discolor and not look so great over time. That's just a reality of headphone pads like this. But yeah, if you're gonna spend this much on a pair of headphones, it wouldn't hurt to have an extra set of pads laying around for it. So for sound quality, this is one of the most beautiful sounding dynamic headphones that I have really come across. It's a very, very complete sound signature. And one of the things I wanted to do with it was give it an amplifier that really tailored to the benefits of the sound quality. And the amplifier that I really wanted to pair it with was the WA7 from Woo Audio. This amplifier not only continues that silvery theme and looks incredible, but the sound characteristics of both just complement each other so well. This headphone is what I would describe as a warm, neutral headphone. It sounds very complete. It doesn't have too many areas that I would consider missing or incorrect, and it manages to not only be a fun and enjoyable headphone, but also a relatively safe headphone from a frequency standpoint. For mid-range, this is still one of the best headphones that I've come across. This is an excellent succession option from something like an HD 600 series. This is going to add treble and bass properties and sound staging properties that series doesn't have, but it's going to maintain at minimum and enhance at maximum a lot of vocalists that you're already used to being really good. I don't know if it's quite as neutral as something like an HD 600 in terms of tonality, but I think that most people who are going to listen for enjoyment are going to prefer the warmer leaning of the Clear. There's an interesting property to the vocals where they are warm and enjoyable, but they are not at all veiled. And that's a property of this headphone that I think is really good about it. It maintains clarity throughout most of its regions without too many weird things like veils or glariness. It really avoids that. And that's one of the things that leads this to have such a great sound to it. One of the areas that this is very clear in is the treble response. It's an area that I would define as reserved. It's not particularly forward compared to some other headphones, like we're going to talk about the 109 Pro from Meze, but it still maintains sort of a crystalline sound, or something that sounds very clear and unrestricted, even though it's not super forward. And I think this just comes down to frequency response is one of them, but also just pure driver resolution. These Focal drivers are really quick drivers, and treble response is an area where you get to benefit from that speed, but you don't have this overly sharp, jarring experience. Bass on this headphone is something that I would define as extremely characteristic. It has a lot of personality to it, and it hits a little bit differently than I think a lot of people might be expecting from a headphone. Now, if you look at this on a graph, it actually looks like, compared to something like the Harman combined target, this doesn't perform as well as it should. But in terms of actual listening impressions, this thing has, I think, about as much bass as most people would like. And I think more bass would kind of throw off the balance that this headphone has. Now, the characteristics, of course, it has general slam to it, like that's pretty easy for a high-end headphone to do, but it has a great environmental bass to it. It makes you really feel the environment that something is in. So if it sounds large scale and the bass is driving that kind of big chamber sound in like a big concert hall or something like that, this headphone can display that in a way that a lot of other headphones, like we'll talk about, can't. So for imaging and soundstage, I would say that this is good, but not really anything groundbreaking. It's got good characteristics for both. It seems relatively complete for both of those areas, but again, nothing groundbreaking. Now, versus some other Focals, why is this my favorite? I've listened to a lot of the modern Focals, everything except for the brand new Utopia, even though funnily enough, this measures on an FR graph relatively close to that, which is pretty funny. But with the other Focals, there's always something that causes me to pause and not love it. Like the Batiste was like that, the Celestia was like that, the Alexa's like that, the XYZ, even up to the old Utopia was like that. It always had something that I didn't really love about it, whether that was a veil in the mid-range, whether that was a weird wonky bass response, whether that was just something that was so based in neutrality that it was boring and not very fun. This avoids all of that. In my world, this is sort of a faultless headphone. It doesn't really have too many characteristics that are really detrimental to the overall listening experience, and I really enjoy that about this. This is a newer headphone. It's about the same price range nowadays, even though the Clear did start off the more expensive headphone, but has since dropped down to being, relatively the same cost. And these two headphones couldn't really be more different, not only in terms of styling, but also in terms of sound characteristics. The 109 is a lot more upper mid-range and treble focused than the Clear is. The Clear leans a little bit warmer side of neutral, and the 109 leans a little bit on the colder side of neutral, the more sterile side. I would say right away, the comfort and head feel definitely goes to the 109. It's a lighter headphone, it feels lighter, and it's just generally speaking more comfortable, and I think it will accommodate more heads than the Clear, even though the Clear is a comfortable headphone. Now, bass characteristics on the Clear are far superior in my opinion. A song like Perhaps You'll Wonder Why from Melody Gardot, this has a lot of bass room information. It can really set the stage for how big that room is. It can seem very inclusive of the environment that the music is being played in. And you're not just hearing the instruments, you're hearing the instruments plus the environment. And the bass is one of those driving factors in that particular song. This is something that the Clear just does so much better than the 109 Pro. It can really involve that background bass a lot better than the 109 does. And in the 109, you barely notice it. On the Clear, it's very obvious. Other things that were better on the Clear was definitely the overall mid-range experience. It's a lot smoother. It's not as sharp and as aggressive as the 109 is. I also think that it leans a little warmer than the 109 does. And I think that most people at the end of the day, for personal pleasure listening, are going to enjoy the warmer sound more on the Clear. The treble response is kind of an interesting give and take here. I would say that overall resolution is about the same, detail capability is about the same. Maybe the Clear even edges it out a tiny bit, but accessibility, the 109 is a little bit better. But the 109 also comes with some downsides. So in certain areas in the treble response and in the mid-range response, you're going to be dealing with sort of a glary sound where the detail kind of hits this wall where it doesn't seem to resolve any better at a certain point for certain frequencies. The Clear doesn't really seem to have that issue, at least not as apparently as on the 109. Bottom line, I think that the Clear expresses a much greater sense of control over the 109. And I think that the general sound quality will tailor to a broader range of people than the 109 will, even though both headphones are great. Now, in terms of the Clear, people call this one the Clear OG because there is a Clear MG. And the MG is like the updated, more expensive version of this. In my opinion, that headphone has some good benefits to it, but it's one of those headphones that I think was so focused on neutrality that it lost what was special with the Clear. Now, I think certain people will prefer the MG and certain people will prefer the OG like me. It really just depends on what kind of preference you have. I did a full review of the Clear MG. I will link that down below as well. There's a few more differences noted in that review, but overall, I feel like this headphone, in terms of personal preference, is just way better than the MG for me. Now with Courtney, because she didn't like the previous headphones that she checked out, I really wanted to kind of redeem myself and give her a headphone that I think that she will like. This is a headphone that I really like, and I think that she's going to enjoy a lot of the characteristics that I like out of it. So I'm going to jump over to her and see kind of what she thinks of this thing.
I like that it comes in a box like this. This looks like a neck pillow I'd use on a plane. Whoa. They look super cool. The packaging is just beyond me. Joshua, I don't know how to set up any of this stuff. You're gonna have to set this shit up for me. That's exactly what I was gonna do, so. Okay, I think I got it all set up. Hopefully I did it correctly. This thing looks cool as shit. I don't know what it does or anything like that, but it looks cool. But what's going on inside of it? I don't know. Why is there red lights in it? Why is it telling me the number? It's made in Russia. No, I didn't. At least I did one thing right, okay? Shit, the bass is so loud. Every ounce in me is telling me to just say, it sounds so clear. But I said that so many times in the last video. I can still, like even turning it down, I can still hear the bass just as clear as when it's all the way up. I love them. Better than the other headphones I've listened to. 10 out of 10.
All right, I want to thank headphones.com again for sponsoring today's video. Headphones.com is a website that is really trying to build a community around reviews, measurements, and general headphone-related discussion. They have a website and a YouTube channel. I will link both below. Some of your favorite reviewers like Resolve and DMS post on the Headphone YouTube channel regularly, so I'd check it out. Again, you can find everything I talked about in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, I'll see you next time. Bye.
I keep waiting for this little doohickey right here to start, like, you know, like those speakers that have the water in them and they shoot up like with the colors and shit. Yeah, I keep waiting for that to happen.